Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Mozenter. I'm in the secret valley in Peru. Magic is in the air. Magic is in the air. Magic is in the motherfucking air. It's Lionsgate Portal, and we're going to reveal the secrets of the universe tonight.
Adaptive intelligence. You searched for more. Is over. And the technology finally exists. To go. Your time has come. Unleash your potential. AQ. Adaptive intelligence.
All right, so you guys are probably wondering who is this Jonathan guy and what's he talking about? So let's actually go into that. All right, so today's talk is Unlock Your Inner Power. And that's what we're going to be talking about, unlocking your inner power. So our guest is Jonathan Mozenter. So Jonathan has a long history of going into very deep spiritual and mystical experiences. He's currently in Peru, and here's him with his lovely bride. So he's been through quite a journey. He's gone through many different places around the world, like many of our guests, participated in many sacred and spiritual ceremonies where he actually assists and helps people. So here he is at several sacred sites. And he coaches people also on spiritual and mental health things, similar to some of the things that I do. And we actually have a common teacher or common mentor, if you will. We'll get more into that in a bit. And so his passion is to help others unlock their full potential, similar to me. So that's why we totally jive. And I've actually met him at Donnie Epstein's event where he hosts what's called The Gate, and it's a very intense spiritual and mind-blowing experience. So if you ever get a chance to go to that, I definitely recommend it. So, and if you're lucky, you might just see him at some of our healing and biohacking retreats, and anything that is neurohacking related. I'm sure he'd love to be there. So without further ado, I present to you today, Unlock Your Inner Power with Jonathan Mozenter. Let me say that again. Unlock your Inner Power with Jonathan Mozenter. And without further ado, I will be bringing him to you in just one moment. All right, so we are here with Jonathan. Jonathan, say hi to everyone.
We're excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Gabriel.
Likewise. So tell us, you've been on quite a journey, and you're currently in Peru. What's the backstory to that?
I listened. I'll give the backstory. When I was 39, the short story of it is I was going through a midlife review, and some part of me is like, all right, Jonathan, he's having a good life. maybe B plus, but there's another level that I was trying to reach to that I felt blocked. And I just said to the universe, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm here to live an A plus epic magical dream life. And I don't know what's a good higher self, connection to higher, realm started opening up. And just from doing these practices, and it turns out that my teacher was asked by the Dalai Lama to translate the secret teachings of Tibet. Now, I didn't know that's what I was getting into, but something in my soul just like married with it. And Johnny Daniel P. Brown, my teacher, was the one guy who got permission to westernize it. So my lineage is a Dzogchen Mahamudra, but with a Western influence. And as I started to get practicing it deeper, my intuition guided me to a lot of other teachers, and my soul's path is to integrate them. And one of my most important teachers is the one that we share, Donnie Epstein, who teaches epienergetics, which is the ecological use of energy and information to produce the extraordinary. And I thought we would do a really fast example of what that means, an embodied thing, because it's something I teach. And you've kind of experienced it. Maybe we could just bundle a couple energies that guide us. And maybe we can just pick them together. For example, what if like we started off with like imagining that we were fusing with the exact listeners of that and absorbing the questions that they have. So we make sure we're really going non-dual and listening to it. How would you agree to that as one?
Yeah, I would love to see that. Let's do it.
And maybe a second one, just enthusiasm for life and for having a brilliant opportunity for us to collaborate like this and really enjoy the synergy of our magic. And I was getting, do you have a third emotion or energy that you would like to add to the puzzle? Maybe mix three. Trust your intuition here.
Yeah, definitely patience. I know it's a crazy world nowadays, and that's kind of like a virtue to the nth degree at this point, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, how about that order? We go non-dual, we start with enthusiasm, and then we're patient. All right? So we're going to put our left hand up, and the audience can do it with us too if they want to get a feel of it. We're just going to create a field effect. So first up, put your left hand up, and quickly just imagine the typical people who are going to be listening to this, and feel in their energy and the questions they might have, the curiosity, their enthusiasm, and mix it with your own genius. Okay? And then when you're ready, pick up your other hand. And enthusiasm that you get to connect with a beautiful, proactive audience who wants to make the world a better place and do it in an intelligent way. So I really feel like that, you really stand for intelligent, thoughtful genius and mixing the mystical and the intelligence so that, that we can, more people can have it. All right. So now we're going to blend these two ideas. We're going to take this non-dual and this enthusiasm for what we're doing right now, and start to mix it back and forth, and start to bring your hands closer and closer together, back and forth. I'm just going to count from 3 to 0. Clap your hands when you get to 0. 3, 2, 1, 0. So what we're doing is energetically combining these two, and then we're just going to add the patience. So boom. So we put all the combined energy in our left hand, and then we're just do the last part, real simple. And we'll do a quick ritual to seal it in, and just be patient. Like, this is new information for a lot of people. And a lot of people might find it shocking. A lot of other people might be like, it's about time. And so people are all over the place. And let's be patient and bring in different voices tonight and embody the different range of people. And feel free to question things. If something I say sounds outrageous, feel free to challenge me. I love being challenged. Everything I've come up with has a big experiential and logic base, because I don't move forward unless I have both. So let's have patience with how this information will hit people in different ways, with our enthusiasm and our connection to our wide range of audience. And now let's go back and forth and start to blend those energies together, back and forth. 3, 2, 1, 0. And then finish with put our hands like this, and just got a field. I take in your energy, we blend. Our souls merge for the entire interview, and we get the souls of the ideal people listening. So it is. Take us to the next spot here.
I love that. It's definitely a mood shifter for sure. So like you're saying, it's energetic, right? So let's actually dive into that, because we have experience with that, right? But the common layperson's like, what energy, like what is that, right? Like I'm just trying to like work my
Yeah.
job and like make money and put food on the table. Like, so how do you make that radical shift? Because I know that Tony Robbins is really big on that too, right? He's like he has his little like actions that he's like, make your move, and like he changes your energetic state. And he's best friends with Donnie Epstein, right? So it's like it makes sense that these two friends like they
Mhm.
share this like very strong common belief that actually makes sense, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting to try and break this down to like a layman.
Mm.
So there's just like pure energy, but then there's like flavored energy. So what I call energetics is like got a texture to it. So we want there's to me, if I had to break down my personal philosophy in the most logical way, there's three keys to really manifestation. If you want to increase your energy, and then you want to uh, see where you are on a good map of development that's grounded in the laws of life, and then you want to bring the right flavored energy. Like, what do I mean by flavored energy? I know people probably not know what that. Well, we just did it. We just did three different ones. Like patience is an energy, right? Enthusiasm is another energy, and you can bring them together. And then patients don't always have to be emotions. Like the first did was what something as spiritual. One of the things my students tell me most often is I know how to ground spiritual terms into practical living. So what we did was a non-dual. We not going to get into all the metaphysics of it, but at some level, people understand that everything's connected and we're all connected. So allowing us energetically to absorb, even if that's just imagining what they look like, and allowing your intuition to put a bunch of different people and allow that imprint. And so it's a very practical tool to ground you in what's important, because we want to make a podcast that's useful to people. Right? I just want to jam on stuff that people don't find interesting.
Yeah, we have a guest here that just joined in. Thanks for joining us, Everett. We'll be
Oh,
able
cool.
to talk more with you at the end. So if you have any questions, make sure you write them down or you just remember them, and we'll be able to answer them for you. So going back to what you were saying, Jonathan. So yes, it's very
Mhm.
true, and I've had many experiences in my own life where like it doesn't take doing something to change a negative situation. Like I remember one time, for example, I'll give you a very fascinating, interesting example.
Mhm.
So I was actually dating this girl that was kind of like very, very emotional, like way, way back before I even got into like chiropractic school or learned about any of this stuff, right? So like she had a tough past, like she had a dad that was physically and sexually abusive.
Mhm.
And so like she was always like in like a fight or flight mode, right? And then one day she was just yelling at
Yeah.
me, and just like yell, 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 and like instead of yelling back, I just closed my eyes and I guess meditated in a way or visualized, and I chose to use
Mhm.
my consciousness to in that moment see her in her best, see her at her best,
Mhm.
right? And so I closed my eyes and I just like imagined her like in all the good times that we had and like just like the beauty of who she was as a person and how I knew her. And literally within that moment, I didn't say anything. Within that moment, she just stopped and became super sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, I never said a
Yeah.
word to her.
Well, that's really powerful. What you said. I think you talking about a field effect. You saw her in a different way, stopped judging her thing, and energetically it did something for her field where she was able to harmonize. So you're showing subtle energy mastery, and that's something that we all can do. It's a teachable skill. It's not, but you need to become very aware of like what energies you're producing in your mind, and realize that they're amplified outside of you,
They are.
and it's a process. It's a process because I'm getting, just for the layman, when I say it's a process, is because your subconscious has layers. So as you're shifting off one layer, then your gift is to get to go to the new layer. It's like a game, and I don't want to make it sound like it's never ending, because it's actually every time you you get a new level, you get more influence on life and more magic, more synchronicity. Um, so it's a game that's got a self-reinforcing loop, which makes me not just confident. When I talk to them in about being secrets of the universe, really, once this is such a true thing. I learned this from the Buddhists, from the Tibetans. Life is a mirror.
Mm.
So the more that you amplify how you feel about life, the more that'll mirror back to you. And the soul loves itself so much it scrapes away wants to scrape away everything is just to show you how awesome life could be. I don't know, like some part of me like feels where we're going is like a Disney with Tarantino. It's got like feel good heart with like epic creativity, because
Yeah.
we still want that. Yeah.
Right. You mind if I give you one more example of a time that's like memorable?
Yeah.
Actually, well, there was a
Yeah.
moment
Trust that.
that happened actually today. It was actually somebody that was trying
Okay.
to prevent this interview from happening, believe it or not. And this
Whoa.
lady just came into the room where I was in, and was just like yelling at me to like to go to somewhere else and like to just I don't get what her deal was. I don't even know who she was, but she was trying to get me out. And but like doing what you said, she came into this room and she
Mm,
was just kind of like standing there hoping that it would leave or something. But like through what we were doing right
mm.
now, she actually left. So
Whoa.
I guess she gave up on that energy. But anyways, that's what's happening right now. Let's talk about the other time that actually a friend of mine was upset at me, and so we were talking on the
Yeah.
phone, and he was upset at me, and I was supposed to go to his house to visit him, and before getting out of the car and like to like
Mm,
visit him like I was planning on doing, I said, you know what? Let me just take a minute, like 15 minutes. I'm just gonna meditate
mhm,
and just like clear my mind, clear all the energy, clear everything, and when I show up, hopefully things will be different. Do a test, do an
mm,
experiment, right? Um, wasn't expecting it to work, but it totally did.
mm.
So like I just meditated just 15 minutes, cleared my mind, everything was good. I go into his house and he's like, "Hey, happy to see you, buddy." Blah blah blah. Like there was no argument that had just
Wow.
happened 5 minutes before. So like this is it's weird. It's like we're literally hacking the matrix of reality.
Yeah.
At least in terms of like relationships and peopling, I guess you could say, right? So like you seem to know more about the mechanics of why this works. Can you explain why it does work?
Yeah. Because, you know, I mean, at some level, we're always emitting these subtle energies and they're going into other people's fields. So it sounds like I'm going to talk about like this from an energetic thing. There's a lot of people who have great intentions who use something called their upper mind, their optimizer, to really want to improve something, but they also don't realize they're criticizing it at the same time. And so a better approach is, I think, what you're doing is you need to slow down. You did something brilliant, dude, where you quieted your mind and you disrupted this pattern and you did what Donnie calls unbound energy, this fresh energy that doesn't have an energetic yet. And I'm getting to pull up this heart. This free energy has a little bit more heart, a little creativity, more intelligence. And so I think that unbound energy came in and it said like, hey, just make this quick shift and it'll change everything. Let's get a quick drink.
I love that. I love that. So yeah, so I like to question reality all the time, like how things work. So like
Yeah.
talking about energy, I guess you could say what's called energy is kind of it sounds a little woo woo. I like to call it more like using your consciousness, right? It's like using your consciousness, that thing that isn't quite
Yeah.
that it's not your body, it's not physical. It's debatable whether you could say it's mental, like your mind, but it's something beyond that. I would say it's more your soul, it's your consciousness, right? Like it's the thing that not just animates you, but also gives you the experience of being you, right? It's not your ego. That's a little bit different. It's the observer, right? And so you mentioned Buddhism, right? And that's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I do like that they do talk about like more details about like the
Mm-hmm.
about consciousness, right? So what are some of the lessons that you
Sure.
learned about consciousness when you studied Buddhism and the different niches, the different niche or sects of Buddhism?
Okay, let's just answer your question first off about energy. So we're talking about energetics. So this does relate to Buddhism. So you in Vajrayana Buddhism, I'm a strictly a Vajrayana Buddhist. Period. I mean, I've taken like a Vipassana retreat, which is a Goenka style. But I got guided to these two lineages. My teacher blends them. They're kind of like sister traditions, Ma Mudra and Dzogchen. Ma Mudra is kind of like a step-by-step getting you into a certain state, and then Dzogchen is considered the closing path. And something said, what I really want to focus on is helping people understand your question. So, and it relates to Buddhism, so I can see how your soul combined them. Because what the soul what the Buddhists taught me was about disidentifying with thought, feelings, emotions, sensations, and recognizing that they called it the field of awareness. Donnie Epstein probably just calls it the field. But this consciousness, this kind of like, if you imagined the five senses and all your third eye comes into your consciousness, this lucid, clear, almost like a screen, etheric, three-dimensional screen that creates this picture that we call reality. So the key is to focus on being the field and not the content first. Now, why do you want to do that? Because the field contains like all this free creative energy, like calming your mind. And if you quick focus on the content, then you're just kind of you're caught in this loop with like, how did I use before? Like, what's the reference point? And versus now, and you kind of don't grow quite as fast. But if you actually retrain the mind to be the field first, then you get connection to this free, unbound energy that stimulates openness and discernment and creativity. So there's a lot of logic to it. And it's not really woo, it's just understanding what's going on. So this unbound energy is like free energy that doesn't have a form yet, a label. And a lot of what the Buddhists teach you in Vajrayana is to pay attention to how you're labeling things, and because that's like your mirror. Most people are labeling things. They're addicted to good, bad, like, I want to move this, I want to move away towards that. But that's like a child's view. Like an adult view wants to like really marinate in all the beauty and like perspectives that are right here. There's a lot more that we have, and a more mature mind is doing like what you were doing, like you're quieting the mind, sorting out the information. If we just go to our first impulses, is stuck in a chain from something, an imprint we probably made when we were a child. So disrupting that pattern by getting like quieting the mind, that stimulates the creative is really unlocking people's growth, right? That's the theme of today's thing about unlocking your inner power. So that's one of the things I help teach people is how to do that really fast, using both techniques from Donnie and
your message.
Things like conscious language and psychedelics, somatic therapy. We can go in a lot of directions, but what is your intuition feeling?
Yeah, so I would say to that
Yeah.
too, like there's like the universe kind of tests you too, right? Like because when you do start to figure this out, it tries to like push certain buttons. It pushes back, right? Like what can you say to that? Like is there like
yeah, well, it's your next layer
that kind of plays back? Go for it.
No, there's something.
Oh, it's your next layer, you know. So everything's about like getting into intensity, right? So imagine being a baby. You just like somehow we're all miracle. You don't know why you're here. Body like, and you know, you're coping. You know, your parents help you coddle, they swaddle you, they give you some toys, but sometimes they're not around, and you got to learn to self-soothe. And what happens is the kids try out different defense strategies. There's a great book called The Five Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler that lays this out really well. And children tend to pick like a favorite blankie, like a favorite defense strategy, maybe a backup one, maybe a third one, and their identity fuses with it because it's about soothing. And really what it's about is intensity. Something overwhelms the child. So those programs are really deep in us. And what happens is the soul wants to take those out because those are childhood protective patterns. The adult who really understands consciousness can really be with a much wider range of emotions. And once you feel intensity, that's connected to your third eye. Third eye feeling. And the more intense you're able to feel, the more you can connect to the future, you know, because at some level it's all happening at once. That's a maybe a little more esoteric, but I see things before they happen. Like, and it didn't used to always be that way. I used to be very like planning, trying to figure it out, very careful, think of all the things that could go wrong, prepare for everything. Like that was Jonathan. New Jonathan's like, my soul says go. Like I just went into a store and bought this heart. My soul's like, a woman's coming into your life. She lives in Los Angeles. You haven't met her yet, but you're going to give this to her. And like, I don't know. I just trust. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that color too. I like teal. I have a truck and it's actually
Yeah,
teal.
yeah, me too.
Color. Oh, nice. So you're gonna be coming out
Yeah.
to California then, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. I'm getting there to October.
Okay.
And I'm getting to like something just, I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit like political, but I want to talk about from a new way that maybe I've never heard before. There's this thing called the woke movement, where there's a lot of people who I think mean well, but don't really get the flavor of what they're doing. So I'm talking about people who's maybe a little bit too protective, a little bit too sensitive. They're like trying to make sure everyone feels good,
Right.
but they're doing it in a very like vindictive, I'm right, this is the only way to do it. There's a lot of hate in it,
Yeah.
you know? And so like the energetic isn't very compassionate and it's not very just, and so one of the advantages of this deciphering code, this energetic thing, is to really feel like the fullness of it because it's got multiple energetics in it. For sure. Like, let's acknowledge these people who just want other people to feel good about life and are getting trampled and haven't had necessarily the most advantageous context. But it gets a little bit to extreme where they're demonizing the people who do have good fortune. So, like, for me, it's like the next level is like, why don't we figure out so everyone can be privileged at once and stop judging the past? Because if you judge the past, you're you're still judging the present. And look at the past with compassion. You know, there's not a lot of respect for emergence or unfoldment or evolution, like both individually and like collectively. We're urgency to like have that valid stamp. We're a good boy. We're a good girl. We did it as a species that we were like judging all the micro, but you know, the deeper truth is to really appreciate the ride. You know, it's cliche, but those who enjoy the process, you know, and enjoy life. If you're just waiting for the big orgasm, you know, what if life was like a flirt with like little peaks and valleys, and we learn full range of emotions rather than I gotta get the award. You know, it's a different way of looking at things, but I think that's much healthier. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely actually what you were talking about reminds me of some of Ken Wilber. Have you heard of spiral dynamics? I'm sure you have, right? So spiral dynamics is a theory of consciousness, right? So for everybody that doesn't know, it's a theory of consciousness and how there's different levels. So you start off at the very bottom, which is like anger, hatred, all the ugly stuff, and then there's like a progression up to like
survival.
yeah, the survival stuff, and then so there's a progression upwards to like basically like enlightenment or like your true spiritual self, right? So it's kind of like it's similar to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's more just talking about just the consciousness. It's once those needs and development happen, like what's the highest level you can achieve. And so like that kind of ties into what you're talking about, right? Like so a lot of people, even if they have the right intention, they come at it with the wrong energy, and so that just like throws everything off. And now like somebody who in their mind thought, hey, I'm going to be doing something for the greater good, now they're actually causing more problems, right? So it's because they didn't come at it with the right energy.
That's brilliant. Yeah, let's go into spiral dynamics. I know that model like the back of my hand.
Oh, nice.
Let me just illuminate it a little bit. Or I am a big Ken Wilber is one of my biggest influences. So I'm getting like before Ken Wilber, I was agnostic. I was like not spiritual, not just I was like, well, I don't know how anything exists. But this is where I'm so optimistic about the future because this is where I'm so optimistic about the future because of this model is that the first 6 levels they think they're right and everyone wrong. And then you get to the seventh tier and you realize everyone's true but partial. Everyone's just seeing the world through the lens of development that they're at. And you develop compassion, and with more compassion, there's less judgment, a lot more. So as soon as we get more people into this seventh level called integral, then the peace on the planet's gonna like spread like wildfire. And it ties back to our previous conversation, which is about these people in this woke movement. That's actually the last. That's a toxic version. Each level of development has a healthy version and a toxic version, and that's like the toxic version of the next level before integral. So if those woke people honor their beautiful hearts and learn to attune the subtle energetics of what they're doing, there could be an explosion on the planet that takes over peace on Earth, because that's a strong wave that needs to be rejected. Like it's like a tennis player, like they just hit a powerful shot, and if it just gets rejected slightly, it can make a big difference.
So do you think that's actually possible, like feasibly? Because like, you know, we all, when we start life, we go through different experiences, right? There's like traumas that happen sometimes, and sometimes it's like things that are not in anyone's physical control, right? Even if it's, I'm not talking about humans doing bad things to humans, but maybe like there's like an earthquake or something, like things that can't be accounted for or controlled, right? Like I would love to create a world where everything is like, everybody's like the highest consciousness imaginable, like a baby pops out and it's like enlightened, you know, just from birth. But like,
Wow.
you know, like how is that like really possible, or is that something that?
Enlightenment both has a fixed definition and a loose definition, because it's kind of an obnoxious word. I think in classical Eastern Enlightenment, what they're really describing is someone who's talked that primordial defense pattern, they've kind of taken it off and they've accepted at some level that they're God experiencing life through a lens. I think there might be some different variations depending on the traditions. But you know, that's just one line of development, and like in Ken Wilber's system, he up line. But it's one of the most important lines of development, because it's if done really thoroughly, at least from a Vajrayana perspective, it's let me explain what I mean by that.
Mhm.
In Vajrayana Buddhism, they have a core tenet. It's actually all Buddhism, but Vajrayana influence it a little different. It's called interdependent origination, which leads to emptiness. Now, let me explain what that means. It sounds like a complicated, but it's actually simpler. It's very profound. What they're saying is that each person has like a witness, and based on its like life experience, it sees like filter. Almost like, imagine you're at the visionary thing, and because of your life experiences, your filter has certain perspective lenses, and that affects how you see whatever you're seeing outside of yourself. So it's saying that your truth is always 100% true for you, but it's also partial because it's obfuscated by biases, right? And so emptiness is this inclination to say like, well, it's another word for openness. Like, let's be open, because when something has truth, then it's still a perspective. You know, it doesn't mean there aren't, but it opens up compassion, because a lot of people are very glued to their idea of what life is as a security blanket. What, you know, like someone who believes something dogma religion is stereotypical. But I'll just pick, like, we're in America, so like maybe they're deep in the. I'll just pick a stereotype of like someone in the South who just believes the literal world of how their interpretation of the Bible, and they're not open to anything else. And if you question that, they go, blah, because it's about safety. They associate this is what life is, these rules, right or wrong or bad. But a more healthy person, given the true nature of reality, has compassion, and emptiness is like, okay, that's a perspective, and it brings a lot more relax and chillness, and it breaks down that defense pattern where maybe we can talk about in dialogue instead of like at each other. So that's a very ancient understanding of life, that if more people understood, Donnie Epstein calls it, we don't like see life as it is, we see it as we are. It's really another way of saying the same thing. But that message needs to spread so we can have more openness, and then we can maybe talk. And the next key is to bring everyone up to a higher energetic. Why we do those talks? Because if we like, for example, I think peace codes can come from the people. I call them, what are the unfuckable sovereign citizen codes? Like, what are the codes that every person has an unalienable right as just a being to be safe? And how do we align that with the real metaphysics to create a world? What if instead of doing all this, whatever is going on in the news, we just talk about that? What if everybody just focused on that? Can you imagine how much that would change? Isn't that? I'm kind of sick of what's in the newspaper. It's boring. It's like repetitive patterns I've seen over and over again. It's like I'm ready for a new game in town, a new narrative, and we need, some people. The only way people are going to get out of this, I guess, is if we help them get out of their trigger patterns, because people are easily manipulated and dividing because they're triggered easily. And until we address that straight on as the truth and get real practices, we're going to be stuck in this loop. And so that's something I'm really passionate about. I feel that's a leverage point.
Yeah, and I like the quote that says, and I believe it was by Tony Robbins, but what you focus on expands, right? And that actually ties into neurology, because it becomes like it's like a track, right? It's like, imagine like if you're a farmer and you have a tractor, and every day you go through along the same path. Eventually, you're just gonna have to you're gonna entrench into the ground. You're gonna entrench that path. So eventually, you're just gonna have to just put it like in neutral gear, and you'll just roll right down that same path, right? So our mind is the same way.
Right.
If you keep thinking the same thoughts, you're going to manifest more. Now, if you want to change your life, you need to change the thoughts. And so, and that's a direct reflection of neurology, right? So like anything like trauma that happened, or thoughts, or even like toxins, things that you take in, right? Like things that you eat or things that you put into your body, those have a huge effect on your neurology, and that's the mental component of it, and then it has like the spiritual and all these other effects, right? So if we get down to the cause, it's one, understanding what is causing the thing, right? So whether it's a thought, trauma, or some kind of toxin, right? And then being on.
So if you guys were taking notes, really long. So if you guys were taking notes, really listen to here. This is wisdom from working a lot of different clients and noticing the meta patterns. What are the most important things? Because I've studied with a lot of brilliant teachers. I've read a lot of stuff, and I'm going to cherry pick the ones that work universally, because there are some universal ones. Number one, most important thing is energy first. To really understand, to start to take it almost like a journal, start to notice what thoughts, feelings, emotions, circumstances you have when you're at different energy levels. Because a lot of people have fixed identities that I am this or I am that, but one fast way of ripping that apart is associating it with energy. So like, Donnie's scale's good. He's got poor, low neutral, neutral, high neutral, energy rich, energy super rich. And just start to notice that, journal it, and break up whatever story you think you are. It's bullshit. It's true but partial. There's truth to it, but also it's not the whole truth. As you get more energy and learn how to work with these energetics, a higher version of you is going to explode. So that's number one, is you can shift we've all got stories from childhood of being inadequate. We're all way too seriously, like when I went into stories of my past, I remember I had a trauma when I was 6, and some kid beat me up, pulled down my pants, whatever, I couldn't integrate it. I started spacing out all the time, and then I was really excited about sports, and I started getting picked last, and it hurt my self-esteem. I felt like a loser because I was picked last as something I valued. Now, fortunately, that label, unfortunately, it's stuck with me for a while until I learned to take it off. The one thing this is another point too, I want to listen to. Your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses are connected. So I want to listen to this in my story, and I'm going to blend it in with the story. Boom. When I learned to avoid dealing with this trauma. I stayed up in my head a lot, and I did a lot of imagining. And now I learned now later in life, I'm a visionary. I can see the future literally before it happens sometimes. And also, I can help other people see beautiful futures to them. A lot of people call me the good news Nostradamus because I've learned to get my energy so high that I see the way forward for a species. So now I want to talk to about another client, a woman of mine had a similar thing. She had a realization about, I won't get into all her specific details, but just, really rules-based household and how she was still living and judging certain things. And this fits into this tip that I brought in earlier, but I want to emphasize when you become the field, so you get this free energy. I want to tie this whole interview together right now. Free energy, this because you did a couple things that are brilliant. You modeled for your audience so brilliantly about quieting your mind, and then also another way to do it is field. Get outside of your stories. Start to see your stories as not you, whatever negative stories, because they're connected to energy. And you can, then the third thing is about finding your unique patterns for high energy. A lot of people, there could be a physical thing like certain foods get us going, music, emotions, but you get a game plan. I know Tim Ferriss morning that gets us into a high energy state. So this is really the beginning stuff that I'm teaching right here. The more advanced thing is this is speaking to people who's like gotten those stuff down. It's really about using different modalities together and interesting patterns and unlocking subtle patterns. This is where I like to make it a lot of fun. It's like a game of noticing, because this is what you said before. Because once you start to take off a pattern, it gets a little bigger. Okay, you can handle that one, but it can all be done in a safe way if you want it to. Like claim it. Like I choose to unwind my unhealthy patterns in a safe way. Like your consciousness will respond to that. Like safety first. I love myself. I want to have the most beautiful life. Dear universe, give me enough experiences so that I can take off the masks that are no longer me and show the beauty of my heart, anyways.
Yeah, and actually I wanted to like circle back a little bit because we talked about like the mind and like the mental aspect and the spiritual aspect, but it tends to like stem from like the physical sometimes, like or at least the mental and the spiritual does affect the physical bodies. Like for example, right? Like we both know like Donnie Epstein likes to talk about like defense physiology, right? So like if you're upset or you're sad, right, you're gonna be like hunched over like sad, right? But if you're happy, you're gonna be in this excited, ecstatic state, kind of like what Tony Robbins helps people through, right? With so so like there's all these three things are related: your mind, your body, and your soul, right? So and they're all interconnected. So it's understanding how they're all interconnected and then how it can apply to your life, and then you do get those magical results like things that you never would have expected otherwise, right? So and I like how you tie all these things in with your clients, right? So not only is it learnable and like self-teachable, it's also you can help coach others through this process, right? And that's what's going to give you the greatest quality of life boost. It's not having like $1 million yacht, although or probably like $1 billion yacht, or like having the flashiest cars. It's going to be like your internal state. Like that's going to determine the most success in your life because you are the judge of that success, like not the external things, although those are nice. There's a easy way to go through life, which is like building yourself up internally versus a negative way of going through life, which is like the toxic stuff that you're talking about, right? And so which side you fall on is going to determine not only what level you get to progress through, but like is it going to be like a toxic version of it or is it going to be the healthy version? And obviously to have a better world, we want the healthy version. So I think awareness is the biggest thing, like awareness and then knowing what to do to be able to get out of the toxic level that you're in and switch over to the healthy version and then be able to keep progressing upward. So and this is all like a spiritual, physical, and mental journey that we all go through. It's basically the human experience, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
it's the journey of being alive and existing, right? Like where our existence is a flash in the pan, but it's everything
Okay.
we know, right? So tell us more about this journey of life. Is there like a end goal, do you think? Like I know like in Christianity it's like you go to heaven, and for like for more like I guess Indian type religions it's more like reaching nirvana, or um there's depending on which religion, there's always like an end goal, right? But like is there truly a end goal, or is it like a continuous process, like spiritually, that we just keep learning forever, or is it you like how some atheists say, like, oh, just like when you die nothing happens and then there's just nothing, or is there a point to all this? I know it's a lot of questions, but what's your take on all that?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's break this down slowly. So first and foremost, let's talk about oneness. What does that even mean? Well, let's break it down from a spiritual lens in terms of values. Well, a lot of times people feel one with life when their values are right. And so, like, I'm just going to get into what do I value? Um, as someone who's done a lot of cleaning up of my old traumas, I've spent over a decade just focused on that with really powerful tools and really effective tools. And so I can really help people do that. But when I come through that, I have this wish for the species that I now know is inevitable, that we all feel good about life at once, that we all know the deeper truth. We're all God talking to each other to know what it means to be alive. That's my Jonathan opinion. I've thought about this a lot. My first question is, how can anything exist? And I don't know, it's like magic. So I'm like, oh, cool, life's magic. It's actually a good starting point, Uh, Superheroes, Harry Potter. The truth is, life is magic. That's the ultimate truth. Nobody knows how any chicken egg. I don't know. I just assume existence is default because we're experiencing stuff. And number two, the stairway to heaven. To me, the stairway to heaven is to align with this primordial, what I call the primordial question. I've done a lot of like contemplating what if, Alex, and I came to this conclusion. Could there be like a first question being asked? This is not a new person, but I think there's only one first question. If you're non-existent, you got to ask the question, what the fuck's existence? You know what I mean? Like that's got to be the first. You can't ask another question. It's like curiosity. But then once you taste it, you probably like, oh, some parts of existence taste better than others. So you're going to want to pick, since you don't want existence, part of knowing existence is marinating in its different experiences and feelings. It's optimizing. How do you have an optimized? So I think that I don't know that I actually went from being agnostic to think ultimate reality only has perfect dreams. We're in a perfect dream of life, and some people might say like, why there's so well, no contrast, no meaning. We're at a point in time in history where if wisdom is starting to spread. I'm a wisdom master in a very distinct realms of energy mastery, mind mastery, transformation mastery, and put them together. Other people are doing other kinds, and so my spirit's like saying like, hey, you're about the world. There's a lot just like you, and it's starting to come together. And one of the most important things, and this is in Donnie's models, and it's in the Buddhist model too, which is, and you even talked about it too, brother, about getting beyond the part of us that judges life as bad. If life's a mirror and we're judging it as bad, then we're just asking for bad until we get the lesson. And so I think there is a mathematical, I call him my Uncle Clunky guy. It's like, how many times do I have to get smashed on? Uncle Clunky get a coconut head a zillion times until he realizes, oh, I got to shit right. But sometimes all of us have like certain Uncle Clunky thresholds before we learn a lesson. So I don't think anything's wrong. I think everything's right on top. But certain souls, all of us learn certain lessons individually and then bring them to the collective. I think it keeps going. So this is like, I think it gets more subtle. I mean, I ultimately came to the conclusion that we're all eternal life, living perfect dreams forever. And that's like a super energy rich belief system. And if life's a mirror, then that's what I'm going to get back. and so I'm going for it. When I did that thing when I was like 39, I was like, I'm going for my midlife. Like, I don't know. I didn't know exactly what I was getting into when that happened, but it's turned out like way better. So if you're out there and you're spiritual curious, like, go for it. Like, there really is. I actually believe everyone's God, but there's a part of God that's not in a body, that's like a mirror. Like Donnie calls it the weaver. Weavers just means like the synchronizing. It's like if you're a Christian, you probably call it the Father. You know, the Buddhist guy, like a word, Dharmakaya or whatever. There's different, but there's something that's operating beyond us that we connect to. I feel like it's an upload download thing. It's a collective. It's like it's like gathering all the information from the souls and the individuals and mirroring back the experiences so it can see. And so yeah. And the last piece I want to do is, the last piece I put is something to talk about Jesus, because I think I talked a lot about Buddhism, but the universe surprised me. I do this thing called deity yoga, where you pretend to be a deity for a while and it teaches things. It's a game of pretend, but it's like a mask you put on. And I did a lot of work with Ganesha, and he helped me sharpen my mind. And then when I was working with Ganesha, he said, Jonathan, why don't you really merge with Yeshua? And he's going to teach you about compassion. Wow. And he helped me when I was like being with his wounds on the cross, pretending that I was able to be with my childhood trauma. And he teaches also forgiveness, and I think to link forgiveness to energetics, if you're spending a lot of time not forgiving yourself or other people, then that's a lot of self-judgment in your mirror that you're popping back, projecting out. So integrating that stuff in yourself and allowing to that heart-centered place of forgiveness, you got to get to a new energetic peak. And that can involve like things like neurostimulation, neuro stuff that you talk about both in the physical, because this is where you asked this question about physical, mind, body. So I'm bringing it all together here at one. So if we learn to get our bodies into higher states, right, and we align it towards the patterns of the universe, which is very spiritual, the metaphysics, then that will free our minds up from the things that are like causing an anxiety and worry, and integrate that so we have enough energy to really be present and deal with the actual problems that are happening right now, not the ones in our mind. And if we learn that as a species, we get this as a capacity, like it's an educational issue, then we'll be able to deal with quantum commuting and AI because we're present, and we'll be able to adjust, and we won't be so attached to our old patterns, because that's the reason why we can't touch all problems is we haven't integrated what happened.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely need to integrate, and the younger the better, right? And I like how in some countries they teach children how to like meditate at a young age. That's a good start. It's not the whole journey. I know like our ancestors, like depending on like where you're from, like the ancestors like started kids off like on spiritual journeys very young, and hopefully we see some kind of resurgence in that, right? Because as you develop internally, you do create a better world. Mm-hmm. So because it makes you more conscious, right? Like more conscious of like yourself, others, and the effects of everything, right? How everything's interconnected. And I feel like we've lost a lot of that in our world today, and that's why we poison the planet. Mm-hmm. We pay governments to go bomb children in other countries. It's very disgusting things that shouldn't be allowed, but it's happening, right? And so like I think like awareness is the key, awareness and education, so that we can then make the right changes that we need to make to actually create the better world.
Yeah, that's brilliantly said. So awareness, but what are we not aware of? We're not, just what you said, the meditation. When you do meditation, this is for novices, meditation is a category. There's a lot of different kinds of meditation.
Right.
Concentration meditation. There's mindfulness meditation. There's like, shadow work ones, heart open. So the first good one is to really, if you had to pick one that I think is universally necessary, is actually you don't even have to like focus your mind. You got an ADD, so mind, dude, find even the space, the ether, the consciousness that holds reality. Like notice, like for example, this is something exercise I do with my is like notice like ask the question like what is your experience on? Like, you know, it seems like it's out here, but it's in space, it's being held by something. And if you like close your eyes like really fast and you can notice the content of your space is completely, your experience is different, but that space that holds it's the same. It's like, all right, my eyelids are black, so it's changing the visual view, but it's the same space, right? And so one of the practices that I teach a lot is to change your identity to be space, because once you're the space, then allows free energy to come in and novelly change that. So it's a really simple practice of just finding the space and being like, I am the space, or I am the field of awareness, I am consciousness, something that gets you off your story of yourself. Because at the back of everyone's mind, they got some nasty story about themselves, and then there's another part of you avoiding discovering that, and you can't get around. Most people are just caught in that unless they have a. This is a simple way to get out of that loop, and then once you get that free energy, it'll take you on a process automatically to take that part off, because we've outgrown it. We got to take it off as you know. So a lot of people bitching about the government. We have an internal government that's kind of like also doing the same thing. I think the external government, and as we unwind our need defense patterns, the collective defense pattern known as government will also be reduced greatly. They're connected, and there's some people who don't believe like that, and some people believe there's like a shadow government. Again, I'm going to go true but partial. I think there's some people who got a lot of influence, for sure. People, billionaires, whatever, oligarchs is a real thing. But also they don't have total control. Influence. They're good at influencing, swaying the energy. And so their ability to influence us dwindles as we stop being triggered, right? As we talked about this before. That getting this free energy allows us some new perspectives. Like maybe we don't want to be triggered anymore. We got to get people, you know, get all freaked out by a news headline. Maybe don't watch the news so much, you know, and focus on. This is what I tell my clients is like, well, I want to teach them to get this free energy so their soul can connect to the higher force, the weaver, the father, whatever you want to call it, this invisible organizer, and get guided by that, not by. When we all start when more people learn to connect to this higher energetics, the soul intelligence, Sonny would call it, you know, the getting into these super energy rich states and moving towards their, like a passion that feeds their soul, but also makes the world a better place. You know, then we'll just, more people do that. It's just going to get better, 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 better in a tidal wave. You know, at the end of the day, the goal isn't to make anyone a villain. I'm not here. But like to create a narrative where, because you know they want their business money and stuff. They don't want depressions and stuff. That's not what they want. And so forgiveness of whatever, like even this Donnie Epstein thing. Part of me wants people in jail, but part of me is like, this is part of what we need to digest as a species. We did a lot of stupid stuff. Oligarchs did stupid stuff. You know, we did stupid stuff. What's it going to take for everyone to forgive her and have like a reset, like an emotional, spiritual reset, where we all kind of be like, okay, we were growing up. Let's have International Super Forgiveness Day. We shift from debt-based currency to currency that goes up with the energy. A new kind of crypto, whatever, healthy crypto that's not tied to fiat. You know, I'm talking real shifts that can happen, and it starts with each individual owning. We own. Do these practices to get out of being reactivity, and then you can pause before you respond, and maybe you and your friends and everyone else start talking about things from different perspectives, and ask, hey, I don't want to fight with you anymore. What can we do to like just move forward?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I have this weird, but you know how like Donnie talks about attention, he brought it too. Like, what one issue could we all agree on? Like, what if we all agreed it would be better not to have so much plastic in the ocean? Is anybody against that? Like, what if we all like focused on meditating? Dear Weaver, higher power, can you invent a plastic eating jellyfish or something? Like, what if we all focused on that and realize that we can, when we focus our energy in an intelligent, cohesion way, you get big numbers. I'll focus on the same thing. We don't have to go through governments. It's a different kind of voting. It might sound out there, but actually, I don't think it is. It's just like, let's start on where we can agree, and then reestablish. Oh yeah, we can make decisions together on the obvious shit, and then we'll work on the hard. Like, who doesn't want, believe peace? Everyone deserves peace. Let's start there. If we energetically can get those rules down, then we can work on, okay, how can we fix some of these injustice issues in a way that there aren't big losers. And everyone win. If you have more, then you can make more win-win-win solutions. And to me, the next innovation that really hasn't bumped that I co-invented using Donnie's and different energy masters with my facilitation background, but a new kind of conflict resolution that gets everybody in a state and agrees on the energy, just like we did, like to start this thing. What if we get some energy contracts and we work on an intelligent process and we commit to these fucking peace agreements, these unfuckable sovereign agreements. Let's change the conversation. I challenge all the newspapers. Why don't you just, instead of following the lead of whatever the fuck's in the story, demand that something like this that's really heart-centered and intelligent be the focus, and let's just fucking do it. As heart-centered, intelligent people, like, keep leaning into what's intelligent, be the answer, part of the solution. We take our power back.
Yeah, and it goes back to Gandhi, who said you must be the change you wish to see, right? And
yes.
we do that with our consciousness and our focus. And so we steer it to the things that we want to see more of instead of the things that we don't want to see more of, right?
Yeah.
So before we close off, I'm actually curious because before the last time we spoke, you said that you've been on lots of different spiritual journeys, and now you're in Peru. I'm assuming you probably tried ayahuasca at least once. What's your experience been in Peru and all this journey that happens?
Wow. Yeah, I've done ayahuasca a number of times in my life, and it's always been life-altering. But I'm getting to talk about my most powerful, most recent psychedelic experience, which happened in Costa Rica, another energetic vortex, which is I worked with Iboga. Iboga, is way different than ayahuasca. Not making it better or worse, it's just different, and I got the calling to do it. I'm getting to talk about the first time I did it, and particularly around why it was such a pivotal thing. It's kind of like it's a much longer psychedelic. It's known for addictions, and I was letting go of my addiction to thinking. As like a compulsive thinker, which brought some of my superpowers, but also like a lot of age stuff. And basically it came down like I was gonna make it like I had this memory of like little Jonathan like run across the street. He's like 2, and my mom just like grabbed my hand like no, like you look both ways. You think really hard before you act. And like I don't know, my nervous system like took that really seriously, and that's not a bad thing. So I'm cautious, but like so much so that something said like the Buddhists taught me how to be the entire field, and so before like I was in my head worried disaster was gonna happen, and I was like really trying to prepare for it, and now I have this system where I'm connected to everything, and I'm very clear with the world. I'm here to live a long time. I mean, Turo will be how long I'll be Jonathan. Vice versa is much longer than you can imagine, because like when you get these energetics right, these different practices, you can live longer, maybe forever. Like that sounds really, you understand you're not actually a body or a screen. Anyways, but the last thing I'm talking about this iBot is it told me to transfer. There's something called a default network, and it's like mine was jammed up. Like go to the mind first, go to the mind first. I actually commanded it down to the body. I call it my automatic body. I was like, okay, let's go to the body first, and then that'll stimulate this free, unbound energy in your mind, and you'll just be more creative, intelligent. You don't need to reference all this shit from your past. You just got this free energy. You know it's better. It's a huge operating system upgrade, and it's available to everyone who wants to do these different practices. And I'm so passionate about doing, getting so much fabulous results. My ambition is to train an AI bot and put it so the practices can be given cheaply through an app, and so everyone can get it.
That sounds cool. That sounds novel.
Yeah, that's my yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and you also eventually bring these energetics into organizations, and see that they can if they, imagine the CEOs of big organizations understand the power of seeing the subtle thoughts and shifting it, and then they bring it into their creative department, and everyone just starts functioning at a higher level. And this is where I think heart-centered spirituality and real-life business economics come together. I'll tell you what, my organizational development guy, like I know that CEOs want to make more, and they know that if their employees are way more intelligent, if they're using sharper discernment and tapping into their higher intuition, because they're no longer stuck in defense patterns, I know that's going to excite them. Honestly, it's going to open their heart, and everyone's going to win together. So I actually see this as a energetics supernova that's about to unfold, and I only see good things happening for the world. I know we're going to do it, and when people surrender to this positive narrative, like it's almost like the species. If I had my heart wants to say like we're almost at the finish line. We're just about there, where we all realize that we're the ultimate reality. Control life by a lot of forgiveness, a lot of integration, a lot of what you said, undoing patterns. Like there are a lot of these spiritual practices that are mystical, are really intelligent practices to undo old patterns and put a new. So I'm here to be that bridge and tell that story, and I can tell you are too, and really empower this movement to go next level.
Yeah, I think that's probably why we're healers, right? Like we deep down inside, like we want to make the world a better place, and we understand that happens by like healing, right? So like not only ourselves, but then those around us, because that's the only true way to bring about a better future. And I did like your idea of like an international jubilee where everybody just forgives each other. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Totally down to celebrate that anytime. Actually, I think
All right.
I think the ancient Hebrews, or is like part of like the Jewish tradition, that they actually did have like every seventh year was like a year of jubilee where like all debts would be forgiven, and like we need to like bring something like that back to like make it like global. I think that'd be awesome.
We're doing it. It's happening. Well, I wanted to say something about what you said about healing, and I want to tie it with high performance because they're non-dual. When you do like healing, that's a word that could be interpreted to a lot of people, but the way I do healing, I think you're actually freeing up energy that's tied up in loopings that are no longer serving you so that you can put it towards your dreams. So when I work with people, it's not like we're just doing healing. It's like you're going towards your dreams, and when you go to your dreams, your obstacles are going to come up, and those could be labeled as healings, but they then, boom, that gives them more energy and direction and intelligence on where they need to go next. So it's like, to me, I see them as like two sides of the same coin. They don't have to be separate. Not the way I do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I would love if you would come out to some of our events, which we do healing and some of the talks that we do, like this one and many other ones.
Cool.
Because I love the energy that you bring, and I love the knowledge and the experience that we both share, and I think the world will definitely benefit from that. So if in the future you'd like to
Nice.
do more talks and more stuff with us, please, by all means, please join us.
Yeah, I'd love to, and it'll be easier once you're in San Francisco, right? So when I'm out in LA, that'll
Yeah, we'll be a lot
be an
closer.
easy flight.
Or train
Yeah,
ride,
yeah.
a train ride. You should take the train at least
Yeah.
once. It's the most beautiful views you'll ever see, guaranteed.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see the California coast, like Big Moon, Sur, stuff like that.
That's the best
Yeah.
way is with the train, because it goes through paths
All right.
that there is no road to, so you get to see like the ocean on one side and then like the mountains on the other. It's like the most exquisite view. And I definitely recommend doing it like sometime around like sunset, so you can look through the window and like see the sunset and just it's beautiful. Highly recommend. So before we close out today, Jonathan, would you like to make any like closing
Yeah.
remarks or statements before we actually go into the discussion part?
I'm getting two things. Self-love's a real thing, man, and self-love, expand it out in three dimensions. It's just like love to all the people you put in your life. Take ownership. Love your internal God, and if you don't love it, that's part of your path to liberation. So fall in love with that process, and energy can help it. And also, if any people want to get more information on it, they can go to my website at www.mozenter.com, MOZ.com, and soon I will be launching what I'm calling my infinity classes, which is step by step helping people realize their infinite self and move towards their dreams. And I'm going to make it affordable, and I'm also available for soul mentoring work and for speaking podcasts. Feel free to contact me through my website.
Yeah, and I would love for someday for you to become one of our AQ coaches. So like to view all of our other AQ coaches, just like click in the link in the description, you guys, and go to top coaches. So every coach that's an official AQ coach will actually have their own profile where they show you like all the things that they offer, all the things that they do, and like a lot about them, right? So definitely encourage you to try that out, Jonathan. So let's go ahead and see if we have any questions from the audience. And let's see, we got, oh, we lost Everett, darn. Oh well. Okay, well, if you guys are seeing this on any live platforms,
Do you want to intuit any questions from the audience?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. We'll respond back to you, promise. And wherever we post this to, obviously it's going to be on YouTube, but we'll probably post it on Facebook and everywhere else. So so thanks again, Jonathan, for coming today, and I look forward to seeing you more. And to everyone else, we'll see you in the comments. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Gabriel. Appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.